Hey guys, Deathslayer Magic here, and Wizards is back at it again, making 3 giant screw-ups with the new, I guess, 2 sets, because the AFC Commander Adventures in Forgotten Commanderville is one of them. Whatever, it's all the same crap. And they're making more controversial retroactive changes. This one's like, they'd put 0 effort into it whatsoever. I would have just not done it, because who's gonna care? Who's gonna run this? I mean, you should only attempt to update like what a paper card says if it's an emergency, like it is urgent that you fix the card. This one, they're just like, I don't know when, let's just do this. But now everybody has cards that say the wrong thing. In fact, because the set is about to come out, it was already printed months ago, nobody is going to own a card that says the correct thing. There are no cards in existence that will say the correct thing on them. I guess that doesn't apply to all this retroactive crap, so let's just hit on that first. So, the Ranger and Bard creature type, so subtype or whatever. 22 older cards are getting updated to be creature type Ranger. And get this, every single one has the word Ranger in the name. They didn't even look back and say, well, Vivian, she's definitely a Ranger, let's make her one. I don't know if she's on a non-Planeswalker card. I don't think she is, but that's just an example. Like, think of like a famous character with a bow. Well, shouldn't they be a Ranger now? Like, if using a bow, like she uses like the Great Arc Bow or whatever, like if that's part of their character, okay, make them a Ranger. If that's the route you're gonna go, I don't think they should do this at all, but I'm just saying. What they actually did is they went to the Gatherer, typed in the word Ranger, and then exported the results. You know, because looking through every single character, or legendary character at the bare minimum, in the game and saying who's famous for using a bow would take actual time and effort. No, all 22 of these literally have the word Ranger in the name. I kid you not. So it's like Birchlore Rangers, that's now subtype Ranger. Orachi, Ranger and Vec, Norwood Ranger, Marasa Ranger, Kelsinko Ranger, Shoreline Ranger. And like, I get the logic and the consistency, but why didn't they just not make Ranger a thing in the D&D set? I could see somebody getting confused where they're like, yeah, it doesn't say it on the subtype line, but it's in the name. If it says Sylvan Ranger, they are a Ranger. It's right there on the card, and somebody'd say, nope, gotta be on the subtype line. And like, that could be an actual argument if somebody doesn't know how the rules work. But since nobody's going to build a Ranger tribal deck, why bother to update all this? How many Rangers are even in the D&D set? Does the D&D set even have a mechanic that cares about Rangers? This is so aggravating. It is so unnecessary that they do this. So anyway, then we've got the Bard creature update. I bet you could guess which 3 this is. Elvish Bard, Jiraga Bard, and Yisan the Wandering Bard are now subtype Bard. Well, congratulations. You were able to type the word Bard into the Gatherer again. Great. Not just, look for famous characters that sing or play a musical instrument. No, just Bard. Enter. Oh, we should update that. Just let Bard be its own thing for one set and just ignore it. Who gives a shit about consistency? There's now 4 Bards in the game, or 5 or something now. Who's gonna give a shit about the tribal matching? Nobody cares about creature subtype when there's only that much support for it. And then with the last one, the Phyrexian update, that was too many. And that was in a pseudo-archetype that already was too powerful. There is no logic, math, planning, common sense, or anything in any of these updates. They are just a nuisance. And in my opinion, this has always been my opinion, go back 2 years on my channel, it is a scam so that when they make reprints in, Modern Masters 4, then you're like, I already own this card, but I want the one that's correct so I don't have to get out my phone and look it up the Gatherer and prove it to people that something other than what the card says on its face is true, because that's skepticism level high already there. Seems a little sus, as the kids say. So then you buy a copy of a card that you already have. Doesn't that sound like something Wizards would do? It's all a scam. All 100% a scam. So here's the one I really wanted to talk about. Delina Wildmage. That bitch needs to be banned immediately. I am sick of the overpowered deck in pre-rotated standard on Arena that this stupid is in. And in fact, she's basically just the new Winota. She's in everything. She's in 2-color, 3-color. Hell, she just combos off herself because they decided to make it say and isn't legendary. Whoopsie doopsie. So if you're not familiar, 4-cost red 3/2 elf shaman bitch. There's an Oracle update. She is now a complete and utter bitch subtype. And whenever Delina Wild Bitch Mage attacks, choose target creature you control. Let's be honest, you're just going to target herself, then roll a d20. 1 through 14, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary and it has exile this creature at the end of combat. Doesn't matter, they just run it in the fucking Skeletons deck and you just die instantly. I mean, there isn't even a Settle the Wreckage effect. What the f are people supposed to do to stop this stupid fucking card, besides destroy it at instant speed the second it comes out? And you might say, but she doesn't have haste. Well, in the decks that I saw, she does. Could be mistaken here, but I'm pretty sure the red die assistance class card also gives all creatures haste. Oopsies, Wizards done f***ed up. But anyway, they are not banning this card yet. They're Oracle updating it, which means that, once again, nobody in the world is going to have an accurate version of this card. So, wonderful. But this card is so hated that it's kind of getting around in social media that, like, to be aware that they had to make a change because they screwed up. Because, of course, everybody's going to share that because it's Wizards f***ing up again. Oh, yeah, I didn't read the ending. So 15 through 20, create one of those tokens and then roll again. So the last result on Delina Wild Mage's ability says to roll again. Most of the time, rolling again is a good thing. No, it never is. There's nothing good about this card. Shut up. In the case where you copy a Pixie Guide, which says, anytime you would roll a d20, roll 1 additional instead, which should have immediately been followed by, if this results in a third or more die being created, then you don't do it, or something slightly better than that. Something to make it, not repeat over and over and over would be great, because that's completely and utterly broken. So anyway, however, every successive roll increases the odds that the next roll will also be successful, because remember, you got 2 pixies, then 3 pixies, then 4. So eventually you're rolling like 5 dice, then 6 dice, and 7 dice. So eventually it's going to be almost impossible to not roll within the range of 15 and 20. Although the way they phrased it is completely idiotic, so that's why I thought I'd give you the actual truth before they spout off this nonsense. Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to absolutely love this. This is so ironic, hypocritical. I don't even know what to call this. Let's just present it for what it is. Here we go. You ready for this? When you do the math, parentheses, which we did because math is beautiful, and parentheses, shut the fuck up, please. You clearly did not do the math. Otherwise, this card wouldn't exist. You done fucked up. You didn't do any math. In fact, you probably just copied somebody else's math off of Reddit. This should be called The Community Does Wizards of the Coast job for them, because I guarantee they did not catch any of these on their own. They got all of these from some forum or Twitter or just whatever, social media. This is just like the Sihili Cat combo. One day, not even a day, not even a full day after the cards were spoiled, people were like, well, that's an infinite combo with Sihili. And the Wizards was like, oh shit, we just found out, we just discovered completely on our own that this is a problematic combo. But also, we're not going to do anything about it, so f*** you. And then they ban it like 3 months later after it absolutely ruined Standard. So they're like, oh, we don't think it'll be that bad, really. Ha 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 ha. We'll keep our eye on it. And then, oh, it was that bad. So you were wrong about not catching it. Then you were wrong about the community telling you, screaming in your face, that it's an insane combo, turn 4 combo that you should not allow in the game. And then you watch the community proceed to go play it on turn 4 as an infinite combo. And then you're like, oh, I guess they weren't kidding. What the f*** about it did you think we were kidding about? Did you think people would just choose not to play that combo? It's a turn 4 infinite combo. Of course they're going to play it in Standard, you absolute morons. What were they actually waiting for? I mean, were they like, maybe it won't be that bad, which is the same as the Eldrazi Winter in Modern. Maybe it won't be that bad, as like just tournament after tournament after tournament is just collapsing and being ruined by this combo. They're, maybe things will improve. Did you think a time traveler would come back in time and stop you from designing the cards? Is that what you were waiting for? Because the rest of the community is like, ban the shit now before people buy it and put it in their deck. And like, I built an $800 deck. Oh shit, I'm not allowed to play with it. Oops. Maybe ban it before people actually fucking buy it and build it. If you're like, oh, the community gets so mad at us over ban decisions. Why are they so mad? Because they already bought the deck, because they're stupid fucking net decking sheep. If somebody's like, hey, you can go to a real actual GP and win actual prize money with this broken degenerate shit, and all you have to do is buy it, they're going to do it. Some people will do it and just show up at F&M. That's why you should have banned Winota the second people were like, well, that's f***ed. That card looks about as fun as getting kicked in the balls. Now people are saying it about Delina, especially in the pre-rotated format. Honestly, she barely even stacks up with the power level and annoyingness of Standard, but I've left Standard in the past. Standard doesn't exist to me. There is no such thing as Standard. What's the Standard you're talking about? I've never heard of that. I thought the official format was called 2022 Standard. I'm a motherfucking time traveler, bitch. I ain't going back to this shit. I'm going to the future. We're past this. It's gone. Throne of Eldraine, Ikoria, they were millions of years ago from my perspective. So now, me and my people playing the new shit are like, wow, Delina's pretty f***ed. And they won't do anything about her. Anyway, if you're wondering how this all works, again, just to reiterate, you roll a d20, create a clone. The clone lets you roll an additional d20. So then you roll again if you were lucky enough to hit a 15 to 20 on the first shot, which is like, what, a 30% chance or something like that? And then if you hit it again, well now, oh, actually, you would have already had a pixie in play. So actually, it's way higher. Then you get a second pixie and roll again, but the second pixie gives you a third die. So you get 3 shots at 15 to 20. So then if that succeeds, you get another pixie and then you get to roll again. But this time you get 4 shots at 15 to 20. So the way they put it was, when you do the math, which we did because math is beautiful. Nobody there knows how to do this equation. It turns out that you could very quickly reach a point where you're more likely to succeed than fail on this roll. 100% irrelevant, doesn't matter. Oh, 51%. Oh, the game is collapsing. No, it's sigma levels, it's confidence levels. That's what you should care about, not, oh, it crossed 50%, now it's automatically going to happen. Wrong. 1 failure, you're out. 50% is not the tipping point. Then they say shortly thereafter you can reach a point where the odds of failing drop to nearly 0. That is where you should be concerned. There you go. You got it on the second try there, Wizards. If this happened, it would mean that you must keep rolling repeatedly pretty much forever. As much as I would love to roll every d20 in the room, I'm a local F&M. You touch my d20s, I'm going to cut your hand off. I can acknowledge that eventually I'd start to feel like Sisyphus being tormented by endlessly rolling a giant d20 up a hill, which that actually is kind of funny. To fix that, we're giving the last ability the errata to say you may roll again. So once you have 100 fairies in play, you can cut it. That game state is fine with Wizards. You're about to swing for like 500 damage or whatever, but that's fine. That's fine with them. 1,000 clones is fine. They don't have to fix that. They just need to fix the fact that you can't stop and win the game. Here's the thing. Already within the rules, you could say that if the judge says, are you stuck in an infinite combo? You'd say no, because eventually I would fail. If this were to go on forever, I would eventually fail, in theory. If I rolled 1 trillion dice, the odds would keep getting worse, but it's like logarithmic. So you could say, no, I'm not stuck in an infinite loop because at some point in the future, with an enormous amount of these triggers, I would fail the roll. It would happen eventually if I were to roll forever. No matter how good the odds get, I would roll all below 15 for every die. So just let me create 10,000 fairies and swing and win. And the judge would say, yeah, that's true. That's how math works. Okay, done. They didn't even need to do this. Now what they did need to fix is banning this fucking card. If you haven't had the absolute displeasure of playing against this trash in a skeleton swarm deck, then consider yourself lucky. I don't know which is worse. And by the way, I actually want the skeleton swarm card banned more than I want Delina banned. And Scoot Swarm is somewhere in the middle too. So there's a lot of problems in the new pre-rotated format that need to be fixed. So let's just burn through the rest of this bullshit. Mantle of the Ancients, it's in the Commander deck. They changed it because it's something about, like, basically when you enchant a creature, you can go get an equipment or aura and attach it from your graveyard directly to the creature too. They reiterated with a wording change that it would have to be a legal target for you to select it in the first place, because nothing in the rules said that you can't. So like if it has protection from white, you can't go get a white aura or white equipment because you wouldn't be able to equip it. So they just added a couple little words that say, like, you can only go get an aura equipment that could be attached to the enchanted creature. So if it's not a valid target, then that you can't do it. And then we have one that I still can't make sense of. I've read this 3 times. Book of Vile Darkness. I guess I'll try to explain what I think they fixed, and then I'll explain why, at least in my opinion and my knowledge of the rules, they absolutely did not fix it. Okay, so Book of Vile Darkness says, at the beginning of your end step, if you lost 2 or more life this turn, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. That's a triggered ability, it's a legendary artifact, cool. It's one of the 3 artifacts involved in its own ability. So then you can tap it, exile it, and artifacts you control named Eye of Vecna and Hand of Vecna, and then create Vecna, a legendary 8/8 black zombie god creature token with Indestructible. It gains all triggered abilities of all the exiled cards, including, obviously, the book. It's pretty easy to see what they were going for from a flavor standpoint, obviously. Like, you rebuild Vecna, and then he has all the abilities of his hand and his eye in his book. But we don't live in that's what it should be land. Otherwise, Majestic, whatever the hell that card is, would have flying because it has wings in the art. I'm still mad over that. So here's what they wrote. The Book of Vile Darkness creates a Vecna token and then gives it several triggered abilities. One of those abilities, the one normally found in Eye of Vecna, is supposed to trigger when Vecna enters the battlefield. Sure, I'll take your word for it. So then they say, if the token is already created, which I took to mean as like what you're summoning 2 Vecnas, but I think I kind of get what they mean here if you read the whole sentence. If the token is already created, however, it technically entered the battlefield already and this ability won't do anything. That's the second statement they made that isn't how the rules work. Therefore, the Book of Vile Darkness is getting a small update to make sure the ability works as intended. Okay, I know what the problem is. I know what they were going for. I've had people try to explain this to me. They sent me a bunch of convoluted rules that I've never seen before in my life, so I'm just going to assume that between my judge training and now, somebody slipped in some sneaky little rules. But what they've effectively done is changed it from create Vecna, a legendary 8/8 black zombie god creature token with indestructible, period. It gains all triggered abilities of the exiled cards. 2, create Vecna, a legendary 8/8 black zombie god creature token with indestructible and all triggered abilities of the exiled cards. Oh, I get it. The first one sounds like an after effect, but the second one says create it like with this. It already has these things. The thing is, though, my last known reading of the rules is that there's no difference there. I mean, I could have sworn that if something says like create an elf and then put a 1/1 counter on it, that's exactly the same as create an elf with a 1/1 counter on it. In both cases, there's no gap there because there's no gap in the resolution of abilities. You can't interrupt them. There's no, oh, it entered the battlefield. Second trigger. No, it's all one trigger. It's all one ability. So nobody can like blow up, like a creature that has no counters on it, for example. There's a spell that does that right now. In the middle of the resolution of something that says create an elf and then put 1 counter on it. Because the whole ability has to resolve. There's no gap there. In fact, I even give this example because it blows people's minds. You have until the end of the resolution of a trigger to, well, basically make another state-based check. If that doesn't make sense, the example I always say is if you're at 5 life and you have an ability that says lose 50 life, then gain 100 life, as soon as it says lose 50, you lose the game, right? Wrong. State-based actions and triggers and everything are not checked until the final resolution. You can't interrupt it. There's no gap there. It all resolves simultaneously and instantly. Yes, it is sequential. You have to do it in order. You can't change the order. So it's not truly simultaneous because if it was, you'd be able to change the order, but you would not lose the game because you can't lose the game until the ability is done going off. That's why, to loop back to what I was saying, if something says create an elf, then put a 1/1 counter on it, there is no gap between those two things. And if you say create an elf with a 1/1 counter on it, that is exactly the same thing. In both cases, they were never smaller. Like, let's say somebody has a card that says -2/-2 to all elves, and your elf is a 2/2, and it says enter the battlefield, then put a 1/1 counter on it. It would not die because you check if it died, you check its toughness, and you recalculate it and see that it's 0 and have it die as a state-based check. But there are no state-based checks until you finish every last word up to the final period of an ability. That's why basically what they did is removed a period. They have done absolutely nothing functional here whatsoever. So that's problem number 1, unless just, I don't know, counters work differently than whatever this is. Because I learned that rule in the context of counters. Here's the other problem. Okay, Eye of Vecna says, when Eye of Vecna enters the battlefield, you draw a card and lose 2 life. If a card or effect or spell ever refers to itself by name, it is referring to that one instance of a permanent or that one instance of a spell. So just because 2 different things have the same name, it doesn't refer to both of them. That's like a hard rule in the game. Also, I mean, if we're doing rare rules, 2 identical objects created in an identical way that don't have a name do not share a name. If you use Declaration in Stone on 2 identical tokens that were created at the same time from the same effect by the same spell, but they don't technically have a name, you won't get rid of both of them. You only get rid of one. So the name/identity/unique property identifier, which is how X-Mage does it, of a spell or a permanent is incredibly important. So the fact that Eye of Vecna refers to itself by name, you can mentally replace it with this card, this permanent, this spell. Because it doesn't mean any Eye of Vecna, it means this one. But that's only a shortcut mentally. So my issue with this is your 8/8 Vecna gains the ability, and I quote, when Eye of Vecna enters the battlefield, you draw a card and lose 2 life. Meaning it would never go off. Because its name is Vecna, not Eye of Vecna. Now, if they would have written Eye of Vecna as when this permanent enters the battlefield, there you go. Then Vecna would have gained the ability when this permanent enters the battlefield. But they didn't do that. They named it by name. So people have sent me convoluted mixtures of like 8 different rules that say, oh no, now functionally you do replace it with this spell. So Vecna would change the part that says Eye of Vecna to just Vecna because it gained the ability of a completely different card. That's not how I know the rules to work, but I mean, since somebody literally sent me the rule, I've just heard other rules that contradict it. Let's just put it that way. So those are the 2 big problems. So, I mean, obviously it's pretty clear what they were going for, pretty clear what they actually did. Okay, whatever. But yeah, this seems pretty jank, and I'm not surprised that they screwed it up. But in my opinion, and with my knowledge of the rules, they should have put when this permanent enters the battlefield on Eye of Vecna, because it's still wrong. The whole it refers to itself universally, and that's the way you always have to treat it, and the name is just a filler, and it's like a variable, and it gets filled at cast time. That's all complete bullshit in my opinion. But rule 201.4b, I guess, popped up out of nowhere, and it says something about like if it refers to itself by name, blah blah blah, whatever, who cares. It's like specific to cloning or something. It's like this obscure rule that just contradicts everything else, and even the spirit of other rules and the intention of other rules. So okay, can't contradict it when somebody sent me proof, but I can contradict it with the fact that other rules contradict it. But anyway, you guys get it. So whatever. Now it properly gains the ability of Eye of Vecna, and I guess you replace the word Eye of Vecna, or the phrase or whatever. It's we all knew what it was supposed to do in the first place, right? Can we just go back to Alpha and Beta where we could kind of feel out what the card did based on how they wrote it? I mean, I'm pretty like exacting specific legalist because, you know, software engineer. But if you kind of get the gist of it, just go with it, which I heard is like pretty much how Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh work, where the judge will just come over and just guess. I don't know. It sounds like it would logically do this. I mean, the spell's called Merger, so I mean, it probably does this. I don't know. I'm not saying I want to play that way, but I am saying it makes more sense. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really say Wizards got a black eye on this one and look like a bunch of morons because it's pretty damn complicated and convoluted. I'm also not surprised that they didn't know about Rule 2 whatever the hell I just said, because I didn't know about it. I'm still not convinced it's relevant, but anyway, those are the Oracle updates. Pretty sad that they had to update 3 cards when the set isn't even out yet. That's pretty messed up. Well, it wasn't at the time I recorded this. I'm going to upload this late. I already know it. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I've probably got more embarrassing news about Wizards to come, so subscribe if you like that. It's really, you ever heard of the ever-flowing chalice in D&D? Now pretend like instead of water, it's filled with wizards making epic f***ups. And that's what we got coming out of Seattle. Shocking, I know. It's such a nice city full of intelligent people. Anyway, I'll see you guys next video.